There's a lot to slackline, and it's really hard to capture the feelings you get from any particular instance. But the experiences, the people, and the sense of accomplishment are unlike anything else. Each week, join me for a slackline story, told by slackers from all over, in an exploration of some of the more salient things that make this pastime so unique. This first series is about rigging, since it's arguably one of the first things you learn how to do when slacklining. Whether it's a 2-inch ratchet or a padded frost knot in your backup webbing, rigging necessarily takes place before the actual slacklining, and sometimes takes longer than the slacklining itself. So it's the first part of 3 that I consider foundational to the slackline experience. Ready for some Rigamarole? Storytellers were not informed of the topic ahead of time. All they knew entering was they would be recording an interview.
That's Smith. I rigged that because I was like, oh yeah, I want to get something that's, really, really small so my friends can try it out. Ended up not working that well. So I think I'm going to think about something else instead of that one. These mugs turned out really wonderful, by the way.
Aren't they amazing?
Yeah.
Carmen's really talented. She's taking orders. She did every single mug unique with the color scheme.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to reach out.
So first off, what's your first name?
My name is Ben.
And how long have you been slacklining?
I've been slacklining since 2011.
Do you have, a go-to slackline?
Tripled up heavy type 18.
Oh my god!
Okay, gotta think about this. Okay, can I tell you a story about not rigging a highline that is taking down a highline instead? Very shortly after I started highlining, I was sort of taken under the wing by Fish, and he had gone out of town for the weekend. I think he was in Ontario, left me in Flagstaff, and said, hey, I'm going to leave this highline up, because in Flagstaff we can leave our highlines up for a long time.
Nice.
So it was 4 days in, and he was like, yeah, you want a highline this weekend? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, I trust you. You've been helping with the rig enough to the point where I can trust you to de-rig, and I know you can check the rig. So leave it up and take it down whenever you see fit. Just make sure that, all the gear doesn't get damaged and all that kind of stuff. I was like, all right, this is perfect. I get some time to myself on a highline and go out with my buddies that are still new at the sport, practice. I hadn't sent a highline at that point. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to have hours and hours to play with this. And I had rigged the line, I don't know, at least 6 times before that with Fish, just never alone.
Yeah.
Line is rigged. He leaves town. Say it's Thursday. He leaves town on Thursday. Friday night, this storm blows in. And we're talking biggest storm in Flagstaff the entire time that I lived there. In 2 days, it dumped 3 feet of snow.
Oh, man.
And the line is still rigged. And I keep on checking the weather. I'm in the dorms at this point. I'm in the dorms in college. So I'm there with my 2 buddies, and I say, hey, guys, this is bad. We got to get all this gear down. Because at this point, first off, I don't know what cold does to gear. I don't know what water does.
Right,
I don't know what's happening. I'm like, shit, it's 18 degrees outside, and there's already 6 inches of snow on the ground. We got to get this line down.
No.
Mind you, this is after, but also not particularly in the best headspace.
Yeah.
So around 11 o'clock is when we had this conversation of, we got to go get the line. We got to go de-rig right now. This is sketch. You then realize, okay, we can't drive right now. We should wait a few minutes. So we waited until 1 a.m. 1 a.m. we leave the dorms and drive out to this place called the Pit, which is, its climbing name is Le Petit Verdon. It's this really cool limestone crag in Flagstaff, where it's just this beautiful, beautiful limestone sport climbing. Drives about 20 minutes.
Okay.
maybe 15, 20 minutes, not too bad.
Okay.
But because it's not on any of the main roads in Flagstaff, and because of the way that Flagstaff's snow clearing program works, it hadn't been plowed at all. No plowing whatsoever. In a 1991 Toyota pickup with a bench seat. So my 6'3" best friend Ray and another best friend Carver, they hop in the car with me. Ray is one of the most experienced climbers I know. He's actually the person who got me most into outdoor rock climbing.
Cool.
The second week of my college experience, he took me to this crag. So he knows that crag really well. The other one, Carver's just wonderful. He's this ball of stoke. Doesn't have extreme experience with anything, but I'd trust him with everything. Okay. He's like the kind of person where you tell him to do something, he doesn't question it, and he just does it.
Yeah. In
a way that makes sense. Maybe it's a little sketchy, but like he thought about it. He's willing to take it. Spun quite a few times actually at the corner trying to turn, but there's not a single other car on the road, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But the issue is, in order to get there, you got to go over a hill and back down. So we basically just hit it as fast as we could, got over this hill, kept on crossing our fingers, and we made it out all the way to this, to the crag. And then it's, to get to the crag, you park in a parking lot, and you walk down a ravine, and you walk back up a ravine to get to the top where the high line is. That was the biggest thing, is because we're all bundled up, like we're wearing hoods or beanies with multiple hoods on, and a headlamp like on the outside. So we're sitting there just being able to see this much, and all we see is flurries. Like you couldn't, like when we were walking in, you couldn't see further than 3 feet in front of you, or 4 feet in front of you. Not to mention, thankfully we knew the trail, but had we not memorized that thing, there's no way we would have even been able to find it. We got a good one for this.
What did you forget?
Snowshoes. Or actually, that's not necessarily true. We forgot 2 pairs of snowshoes. We remembered 1 pair, but they so happened to be my very first pair of snowshoes from when I was like 9 years old. So they were just about the size of a shoe, and also they didn't quite fit boots, and they broke when we were out there. So we just like tossed them on the trail, and we said we'll pick them up on the way back. By the time we got down to the ravine, it was probably, I don't know, there's probably about a foot of snow on the ground, so we're post-holing our whole way there. And then getting up to the top, you got to go up a pretty sketchy ravine. You're not supposed to be able to walk to the top. You're only supposed to be able to climb up to it. So we go down, or we go to the top, which so happens to be also right next to the Arizona Trail, which is like, really, really big trail that goes through Arizona. And from there, we walk over to the rim of the canyon, have to down climb on ice and snow about 10 feet to get to the anchor of this high line. It's like 3 in the morning, dumping snow uncontrollably. Scary as shit.
Yeah,
and we couldn't hear it all because it was so loud. We're all bundled up. All 3 of us stayed together.
Oh, okay.
I left the 2 guys at one anchor so I could go to the other anchor. But very quickly realized that I probably shouldn't do that all 3 of us should go at the same time. We're all there wearing our harnesses, PA'd to each other.
Jesus!
Trying to get, because basically one side of the anchor was you down climb a little bit on some pretty big blocks to a rather sizable ledge, and then you're traversing to another ledge. But the issue is, long ago, the center part of this big ledge just gone. So it's just loose rock in the middle of this large ledge. I mean, it's literally just like a... Yeah, it was really, really interesting. Thankfully, because the cliff edge was so, so exposed, the wind was keeping the snow off of it.
Oh, right.
So the wind is blowing up. You can see the
good
line.
Thing. That's a good thing in this circumstance.
We would look out with our headlamps, and you could see the line like slightly hovering.
Oh my god.
Like a little bit above the level, because the same effect that you get in Moab.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing as the fruit bowl. It's just like levitated a little bit because of the wind that's coming up.
Yeah.
So once we got one anchor undone, we kept one person there who tied into one of the bolts, clipped into one of the bolts, had the line there, was ready to start tagging it across. And then the 2 of us, Ray and I, went over to the other anchor. We broke the anchor down and then gave the correct, the signal to start pulling it over. Pulled one side over, to the point where we were then only, I mean, the line was probably about, I guess, 25 meters. So not incredibly long. And we were able to get the line walked up to the next level of this cliff so that we could then walk it around and not have to drop it. Because that was the goal, right? We didn't want to injure any of the gear. Again, this is none of this stuff's mine. It's all this guy, this mentor of mine, right? By the time we got the webbing across, the whole thing probably took about maybe 3.5 hours. We got the webbing across, walked down the hill, slid down the hill, I should say, because it was all ice and snow, and got back to the car. By the time we got back to the car, the roads were clear. They had been plowed at 4 a.m., whatever time it was. And we get back to the dorm, go into the into my dorm room and start laying everything out, and then all three of us just fell asleep. all in my little dorm, and my roommate comes back in the morning and is like, what the fuck happened? Our room smells like absolute shit. We hung up all of the webbing, everything, to make sure that it was nice and dry.
Yeah.
And climbing rope and type 18, span sets, everything was just utterly soaked. I think that like I said, it was like 18 or 20 degrees at night, so we were just frozen.
Awesome.
Hardly harrowing. It was more like stupid. In hindsight, I would have just left that shit up. There was not a single piece of non-stainless steel or aluminum in there. Oh man, it's crazy to think that was like 7 years ago, 6 years ago. No, it's fun, man. Especially now that we're like a little bit more learned. It's totally worth it. Next week I went and sent the line. It was my first Highline send. That's the beauty of Flagstaff, is that like it can be just dumping snow one day and then 2 weeks later it's completely gone.
Thanks again, Ben, for taking us on a ride. Follow Ben's adventures at BiggityBen on Instagram. Visit our YouTube page for the spelling on that, as well as bonus video and photos.